Hello humans, this is Random Episode and welcome to the Random Channel. Today we're going to be playing Medieval Fantasy Rogue's Choice, Chapter 21, An Unexpected Journey. This is the second last chapter. There's Chapter 22. I don't know if Chapter 22 is the end of Rogue's Choice. As far as I know, Chapter 22 is just like a part of it, and Chapter 23 and 4 will come out eventually, but there might be the case that Chapter 22 is the end of it. If that's the case, we'll probably move on to Medieval Paladin's Choice or something like that. We'll see. Anyway, for now, chapter 21. Last time we nearly kissed Kriya and Ironova showed up and all that, and let's see what's happening. You turn to see Ironova smiling, her fangs gleaming in the moonlight, just as you remember when you first met her. The front of her dress is gone, evidently burned away by the Babao demon's acid. Unfortunately, the shock of seeing her lovely nakedness is explicitly far more fear than excitement. You look surprised. How could anyone else how could you possibly expect to see anyone else? She asked, gesturing to the 11 corpses around her. Kriya gasps and reaches for her wand, a dress, perhaps reaching for her wand. Don't, you shouted Kriya, catching her wrist. That's right, bitch, don't. I'm far too fast for your tricks, says Ironova, tensing her legs as though preparing to pounce. I understand, says Kriya cautiously. She slowly withdraws her hand from her dress. Her wrist trembles under your hold. Hawes, who is on the far side of the battlement, scurries to his mistress and leaps up into her free arm. You let Kriya go. Ironova does not seem to even notice the road, and her eyes roll between you and Kriya. Freedom looks good on you, you say, hoping to ease the tension. You are flush with health. With anarchy comes opportunity, says Ironova as she wipes blood from her chin, smearing it. Kriya quickly stores her rat away into her magical dress and pulls her collar up over her throat. Do not fear, little fawn. I have my fill for now, says Ironova, so long as you behave. She adds. Everyone is silent for a moment, too long. Anxious as you are, you again feel you must say something. What do you say? Kalak is dead? Why did you kill all these elves? Maybe I should buy you a cape next time. I like that. Maybe we should buy you a cape next time. She says. She smiles and showing her small gleaming fangs. She nods quickly, fades as she nods beyond you. Buy a cape from where? You turn to look at the devastation below. True, recent events seem rather bad for business. Not everyone in the city was always kind to me, and there were times when I thought the city deserved to burn. Yet there were good memories also, and I would not have wanted this, she says. Not everyone has been kind to me in the city either, yet I have made a few good memories also, you say. Your attempt at the connecting at the vampire seems to not pan out, as her eyes flash with cold rage. And I had hoped to make some new memories with a certain comely elf, an elf that has since met his demise here in this tower, she says with a sneer. Oh. What was she going to fuck the elf? I don't know. You act surprised, tilting your head and raising your eyebrows innocently. Turns out the elves don't easily turn. Says Ironova, frowning at you. Oh, so she turned the elf into a vampire so that she could like get into a relationship with him or something. Theodman was the only one that did, says Kriya, evidently her fear losing ground to her curiosity. Shh, you said Kriya. I don't know whom you speak of. I know you, Slima elf, says Ironova, gritting her white teeth. No need to pretend, and you tried to turn all these others, says Kriya, pointing at the nearest elf corpses. You lean over towards Kriya and details. No need to press her for details. Not all, says Ironova, only the handsome ones, she smiles. Thedman's vessel was the only one that pity you slew him. That one was the only one that took. A pity you slew him. It was a fetching elf, says Kriya, forcing a smile. You obviously have taste. Ironova looks away from Kriya and considers you. You're not so bad either, and I presume your body, a human body, will readily take the spirit. You do your best to smile good-naturedly as you step back, pressing your back against the battlements. You put up your hands. Oh, you don't want me. Handsome maybe a little, but perhaps a bit dull too. I tend to ask rather stupid questions that ramble just to hear myself speak. No one wants to be around that for eternity. Ironova pauses, her eyes switching from predatory to a mild amusement. She shrugs. Maybe later I will take you. Desperately wanting to stay off the subject of turning into a vampire. You try for some small talk. You came back to the tower for that the sentinels trail off, as realized that it would not probably be wise to not remind her of Theomund. I came back for Theomund, of course. She says as she saunters over to the battlement, and for better equipment to take part in that, she points down to the battle below. Why would he join that horror, you ask? My new master calls, she says in a low voice that barely carries over the sound of battle below. Nuxius, breathes Kriya. He has fallen to chosen the way of necromancy. Ironova quickly whispers quickly as she stares down at the chaos below. The other girls, and I call him a ghost. Mala was fond of him, childhood friends, I guess, so the rest of us thought well enough of him, although he was not a customer. Wait, hold on. Mala was fond of him. Yes, he was obviously talking about the one girl that was with Bonebrow. But wasn't Mala a girl we actually read about in the first game as well? I feel like he mentioned that at some point he was wrestled down in a pit and had sex with some girl in the first game. I don't quite remember. Maybe Mala. I'm just confusing the one girl was in medieval fantasy. Wizard's choice to the one in this one. Maybe, who knows. Although he was not a customer, blood wells around her eyes as though she's about to shed bloody tears. Mala, you think? That was the prostitute who spoke to Bonebrow days ago. It seems not long ago now. Gods know what has since happened to Mala and Bonebrow. Nux is in the Temple of Eternal Love then? Asks Kriya. Ironova nods. How do you know? Asks Kriya. Too many questions, you think? You've seen how volatile Ironova can be, and she might lose patience only moments ago. Kriya had been terrified. Now she is determined to examine the vampire like one of her spellbooks. Ironova is quiet for a moment, and you move your hand towards the hilt of his sword. After that, she might pounce. Finally, she says, he calls to us. You can hear him? I cannot hear anything, says Kriya. I hear only as it happens. We are headed towards the Temple of Eternal Love. As well, you say, interrupting Kriya. Maybe we can aid you reaching your destination? Kriya smiles. Ironova smiles amusedly at you. You wish to aid me? I'm not saying I approve of all this, you say, nodding towards the dead elves. But we have worked well together before. I mean, I have rescued you at some cost to myself, she says, motioning to her naked front, and you, in payment, slew my servant. Self-defense, you mutter. Of course, I can aid you, but what makes you useful to me? She asks, the predatory glint returning to her eyes. What do you say? I can walk in the daytime. I can walk in the daytime. Yeah, let's not go for the womanly charm. She probably is not very happy considering her prior career to become a vampire. I can walk in the daytime. Language is one. I can walk in the daytime, you say. Ironova tilts her head, her mouth twisting into a frown. Like when I bought your dress, you continue, such a task would not be done by another vampire, and my loyalty would be built upon a friendship of a sort rather than fear. You think of me as your friend, says Ironova. Her tone is skeptical, and you think you detect a hint of anger underneath. Of a sort, you repeat quickly. Although again, I do strongly take issue with this behavior, you say, pointing to the elves, and would hope that you would turn your hunger towards more deserving targets in the future. The anger leaves her eyes, and she smiles, regarding you silently. Finally, she laughs, and she turns to Kriya. And what of you? Shall you be a friend of sort to me? Kriya nods. You are a capable woman, better a friend than otherwise. That is true, says Ironova, nodding. At one point, I thought that Ironova might have been taken over by the demon that rides her. Well, actually, now that I think about it, vampires might be a bit different from what I always think of them as, in this game at least. The first game showed us that vampires are when a person, like a former vampire, right, bites a victim and then instills the fucking demon onto them, which rides their soul, which then become a vampire, and then they bite another one, and they have to call a demon from the abyss to ride that person that would become the vampire. I don't think you can become a vampire without having a demon riding you. So that's by the way, that's the language they use. So that's the language I'm using, riding. So either she called a demon for the elf, or I don't know actually. That is very confusing. That there might be a case like the classic vampire, like you see in our like world's fucking movies and stuff like that. You get bitten by a vampire and you become the vampire sort of thing. That might be the case as well in this world. But as far as I have seen, there is no proof of otherwise. So I'm just assuming that there's a demon riding her. You point towards the battle below. Ironova, do you happen to know of a back entrance into the temple? My mother mentioned I have heard of a secret passage in, says Kriya. Lifts her head for a second as though listening, and then says, you cannot enter. Right, I'm sure it shall be difficult, you say with a sigh, and the entire place is surrounded, and no, I mean the living cannot enter, says Ironova, cutting you off. You begin to ask her what she means, but she interrupts you. I shall equip myself. I haven't any skills with weapons, although perhaps some armor would serve me. Vampa peers down at the dead elves at her feet. For a moment before dashing down the stairway, silent as an owl. We found no women among the dead, you call after her as you start towards the stairway, although elves are built in a similar way. Where are you going? Kriya hisses as she grabs your arm. To help Iranova, you say. As a prostitute, she has no training in the selection of an armor. She's a vampire, says Kriya, keeping her voice low. Possessed by a demon. Possessed by a demon, that's what I'm looking for. She's no less dangerous than any of the monsters we have encountered. Better we leave this place while we still can. I'll admit she's a bit touchy, but she already said she's not hungry, you say. She seems to know a few things about nukes. She's also pretty handy in a fight. We must leave, not just because of the vampire, but because we were just cried upon, says Kriya. Scried? When? By whom? How do you know? You say, looking around. The scry was during a conversation with the vampire, says Kriya. It did not seem like the best time to bring it up. As to whom did the scrying, I cannot say. As to how I know, the answer ought to be obvious. You know who my mother is. I've been trained to sense when I'm being watched. It was a good scry, barely detectable, although not perfect. It probably was hurried. Well, then I suppose we should move on, you say as you snatch a dagger from the belt sheath of an elf corpse. You had lost your old dagger, the second dagger you have lost since you come to the city. Two of you hurry off the balcony. It would be nice to know who's cried upon you, so that you can perhaps prepare yourself for an encounter. Who do you guess cried upon you? House Ruder here, I highly doubt they have the time for one character like me. The Lich Melios, I highly doubt it. Galmagus and Azazel is probably the best choices. And we have seen that Azazel has tend to be the one who does the scrying a lot, so we should probably look for Azazel. Yeah, it was done in a hurry. Yeah, definitely Azazel. Oh, it must be Azazel. What I'm going to say is Azazel, most likely, you think. You witness Azazel use scrying several times, as you know she found out the spell. Also, as you recall, scrying is best done when you have a possession of the person you are scrying upon. Missing your dagger, Azazel or a slave jackal must have taken it while you were catatonic with pain. Why did she scry upon me, you wonder, as you absently trail behind Kriya, descending down the tower steps. Revenge for sending the demons after her? Maybe she is just petty and wants to track you down simply because you escaped. Say, Kriya, what do you know about succubi, you whisper. Turns back, her eyebrows rising, no doubt surprised by a out-of-nowhere question. Not much, thankfully, only that they prefer seduction, manipulation, trickery over brute force, the only kind of fiend in the abyss that does. Also, don't let them kiss you, much less anything more. Kriya eyebrows furrows at you with suspicion. We did fuck her, so yeah. I would not be surprised if you got yourself mixed up with one of the Abyss's brotherhood. Hey, let's not jump to conclusion, you say. It's just that I've spotted many flying around. I've spotted many things in the air on this night more dangerous than succubi. Says Kriya. Naturally, you notice the succubi. Their beauty is only an illusion. The fiend's just as loathsome as any other. Are you jealous? You ask teasingly. She rolls her eyes and continues on. You smile. As you descend the tower stairway, it should be tell her about Azazel. Not in detail, but like a just general thing. You descend the tower stairway. You think you hear movement from a room down one of the landings, probably in Iranova. Kriya hears it too, as she cocks her head for a moment, then hurries along. When you're some distance from the landing, you ask, where do you intend to go? Iranova says the living cannot enter the temple. Maybe, says Kriya with a shrug, although I'm not in the habit of taking the word of blood-soaked naked vampire. Besides, it is not the temple that I seek, says Kriya, her voice tense. She seeks a mother, you think. It seems silly though, had Kriya not just been saying how wise and powerful mother is. What does Kriya think she can do for Drala other than get in her way? Maybe her mother charmed her, you think? That would make sense. Kriya likes her charms, so why wouldn't Drala add a little magical loyalty to make sure her daughter did not betray her? What do you think, Agra? Is your champion, of course, not learning the ways of the wretched and powerful? Of course, she does not answer. Evidently, she is still napping. So when you're back in the gatehouse, the mechanism is simple enough. As you kick out of the wedge, the gate falls easily, perhaps too easily, causing a terrible amount of noise from the clanking chains, followed by a boom as the gate strikes the stone moat on the other side of the moat. Naval scrotum, let's go. You curse as you jog over the bridge into the street. There's no one in the gatehouse to raise the bridge again. Iranova might not appreciate you leaving her this way. It's probably not a service in the city to leave one of the fortress open to hordes of evil, but there's nothing to do about it. Flash of steel catches your attention from an alley far below the street. Even with your night vision, you weren't able to make it out as it was moving too swiftly. Something tells you it's not friendly. You motion for Kriya to follow you the other way. Ahead is the roar of battle, and you spot a gang of demons converging from the side street, no doubt intent of joining the fray. Indeed, you have not gotten much closer before monsters are all around. flying above and running down the street. If they weren't so intent on joining the battle, you would have certainly been spotted already. Now wanting to push your luck further, you grab Kriya's sleeve and pull her towards a broken-in doorway and then behind her overturned table. Kriya is staring wide-eyed, probably nearly blind in the darkness. The overturned table, it should, my fucking potion should end at any moment, I feel like. The overturned table blocks much of what light is coming in from the open doorway. You both catch your breath for a moment before you whisper, "What are you rushing into? Suicide? Perhaps if we could reach the Duke's men, we could." Her sentence trails off as she pants. "Aid them?" you ask exasperately. "Do you suppose that our aid shall be the key to the decisive victory?" says sarcastically. "Or do you expect to find your mother in that mess?" "I don't know, Rooster. Certainly none of this is wise. Perhaps I should not be here at all. Gods know why you are here. You have not given a clear answer for that." You pull your amulet out of the nightgown and inspect it. "The godling wishes it," you say in the whisper, "but she sleeps now." "Sleeps," says Kriya. "Surely Egrilla would not abandon you." "Maybe not Egrilla, but..."